Welcome back, Terry Real.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, awesome to have you back, Terry. Tell us what you're up to right now.
Well, I have been doing a lot of work online, actually, as well as traveling around the country. I've done a lot of training for therapists in the kind of therapy that I've created, relational life therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk maybe later on about some of the distinguishing characteristics of relational life therapy, what makes it unique.
Yeah, great. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, I've been doing that. And we just crafted an online course for the general public, for couples and individuals who are interested in relationship skills.
Okay.
So we just did that one. And I've been doing a lot of traveling. I would say, and of course, I always have my 2-day intensives. That's my clinical work,
Yeah.
where couples fly in from wherever to Boston and spend 2 days with me. These are usually couples on the brink of divorce, couples who've had other therapies that haven't done much for them. And we agree at the end of our 2 days that you're either back on track or you're getting a divorce. Yeah. And that is what I
Awesome.
do clinically. I call them relational interventions.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
heavy duty.
so,
Yep.
so I'm doing a lot.
Yeah, I'll bet. Cool. And you've been, remind us how long you've been married.
Ah, 34 years.
Damn.
34 years.
Nice
Isn't that
work.
amazing?
Yeah.
Nice work. Yeah. I tell Belinda it's been the best 5 years of my life.
Cool. How does one get through 34 years of living with one person? How do we do that?
Well, uh, at one level, I want to speak as an elder. I love talking to older couples who are happy, couples even older than I. And remember I was speaking to some woman, had to be in her 80s, and I said, what's their secret? And she said, oh, I remember the first 10 years were hell. They must have been married 40 years. I
Wow.
remember the first 10 years were hell. I said, why? I said, Harry was just impossible, and I had to change him. And then after about 10 years, I just said, oh, Harry, that's just Harry being Harry. Oh yeah, that's Harry. And ever since I changed, we've been fine.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. There's a lot of truth in that, right?
There's a lot of truth, and I do think you spend up to your first, well, for some people, their whole marriages, but you spend the early part of your marriage. Well, of course, first it's the honeymoon phase, which I call love without knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You have a soul connection with the person, but you're not sure what they do with their stocks or what their bank balance looks like.
Yep.
The second phase is disillusionment, which I call knowledge without love. Now you see all of the warts and moles in your partner, but you're not very happy with them.
Mm-hmm.
And the third phase I call mature love or knowing love. And that's when you see exactly how imperfect your partner is, and you choose to love them anyway,
Yeah.
because they're worth it. So all couples go through that.
Yeah. What will you zero in on the part where we want to change people? Like it seems like that's where most people get stuck. Can you say a little bit more about why we do that and how the hell do we get out of that crap?
Yeah. Well, I call this the mysticism of marriage. We pick people. It's a funny paradox, Jayson. We fall in love. What falling in love really means, although we may be too sophisticated to say it, is this partner is going to complete me. This partner is going to heal me. This partner is going to give me all the missing pieces. And at the very least, this partner is not going to hurt me the way those sons of guns called my family did. They're not going to do that. And that's that first honeymoon phase. And the disillusionment phase is the day you roll over, look at your partner and go, oh my God, what a mistake.
Yeah.
This is terrible. And not only is this partner not going to avoid wounding you. This partner is exquisitely designed to stick the burning spear right into your eyeball.
Yeah.
This partner is going to throw you right back into that early childhood wound. When you're there, our first impulse, I call it first consciousness, is to get our partners back to what we thought they were. To get them to give us what they doggone it promised us they were going to give us. Mm-hmm. And that's the merry road to hell. And then we get mad when that doesn't work, and we retaliate, or we withdraw, or we do whatever we do. You know, I speak about 5 losing strategies. When you hit that disillusionment phase, if you stay in your adult self, which is rare, if you stay in your adult self, you can, I call it keep your eyes on the prize. I'm in disillusionment. I want to be closer to my partner. What do I need? What does he or she need? How are we going to get this done? That's keeping your eyes on the prize. It's keeping your wits about you. We don't do that. Instead, a less mature part of us, which I call the adaptive child part of us, takes over. And that child has its own agendas, and there are 5 of them. And here they are. Being right. We're going to settle our differences by validating one or the other as accurate. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good luck with that one. Uh-huh. Number 2 is control. I will be happy if you would just ...
Yeah.
Number 3 is unbridled self-expression, also called ventilating. I call it the barf bag approach to therapy. It's like, here, hold that. I feel so much better. It's core dumping. It's bringing in the kitchen sink. It's bringing up the past. It's escalating.
Yeah.
You don't have the inalienable right to express yourself any old way you want to. And then the 4th is one of my personal favorites, retaliation, mm-hmm. which is hurting them the way you feel they've hurt you. And then the 5th is withdrawal. And it's pretty clear, if you step back for a moment, that any of these or any combination, it's not going to get you more of what you want. It could be proving you're right, controlling your partner, mm-hmm. Unbridled self-expression, retaliation, or withdrawal. They're all losers.
Yeah, big time.
Big time. And it's useful to know that. When you hit that disillusionment phase, those are the well-worn grooves. That's door A that you've been through a million times. And on this day, I want you to take a breath, access the adult, mature part of you, prefrontal cortex, and choose door B. And to be that woman, to say, the first 10 years I couldn't stand Harry, I had to change Harry. After that, I was like, that's Harry. That's mature love. Harry is no less a pain in the ass than he was in the first 10 years, but she has stopped trying to get it out of him, and she has taken a new position herself. And that's how it works. We pick partners who are close enough to our family of origin that we're thrown into the old drama. If we try and get them to change, we'll just repeat the drama over and over again. When we wake up and we change our position in the old drama, I'm not that little boy. This is not my mother. Mm-hmm. This is my grown-up wife asking me to be more thoughtful about blah, blah, blah. And I am a grown-up Terry able to listen to this and push back if I want to, or agree and be accountable, or be a man about it, mm-hmm. where that little boy can. You know, that's waking up, and that's mature love. It's staying in the functional adult part of us, what I call second consciousness. And then if we do that, then when the old wound is resurrected, when we're in it, we can do something different. We can say, for example, instead of, that really pisses me off, we can learn to say, that hurt my feelings, honey. Or instead of saying, I hate it when you do blah, 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 you can learn to say, I would really love it if you would do blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. There's skills to be learned. And if you change your behavior to a more mature place on your side of the dance, then there's a good chance your partner will also, because they're not just your family of origin, they have other resources beyond that. You've
Totally.
chosen well.
Yeah.
Choosing a partner who's enough like our family that we're drawn into the old drama and has other resources beyond our family so that if we do something different, they can do something different. That is healing.
Yeah. And you're saying we
Healing,
can be the leader, right, of that change. We can change
right,
ourselves rather than
right,
trying to
right,
focus on them.
right. But we have to be in charge of our own wounded children.
Yeah. Big time.
We have to be in charge of that adapted child and that wounded child. And we have to nurture the wounded parts of ourselves. We have to guide the wounded parts of ourselves, and we have to limit. I just did a session with a guy, beautiful session, and he was talking to his 12-year-old self, who his mother's said routinely horrible things to him, like, my life would be better if you'd never been born.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a sample of his trauma. And he says to this little boy with incredible emotion, I will take care of you. I will nurture you. I will love you. And you will not hurt my wife.
Yeah.
You will not misbehave. So what you do with these children is you love them, you guide them, and you set limits on them.
Yeah. Boundary and I love you.
Yeah. You know what? Love you, kid. You're in the back seat. I'm driving the bus.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's really common, right? Let me play devil's advocate a little bit on the changing our partner thing, because this comes up so often. Aren't we sometimes, though, trying to change our partner and it's valid? Like when we want our partner, like if we're making I feel statements and we've committed to not blaming and we're working our shit, and our other partner, our partner won't kind of do that. Don't we try to get them to change, to like agree to some rules here?
Well,
is that fair?
I'm not saying that you don't have the right to work a relationship or try and get your partner to change, to be in reasonable ways, to be reasonable with you.
Yeah.
So if they're extreme in healthy couples do regulate each other.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only two real issues for a couple. Either you're too close in and you're taking liberties with me, and I need to tell you to get out of my face, or you're too far away and you're off in the wild blue yonder, and I need you to get back here and come be with me.
Yeah.
It's a distance issue. It's either too close or too distant, and you regulate each other. That's part of it. And so that's all within the normal range. But what I was talking about is more metaphysical. I was talking about really wanting your partner to never do any version of what your parents did. And when they do, reacting in the way you did when they did it, which is pretty childish.
Yeah.
And so that's different from working your shit and saying, look, it would really be important to me if you would drink less when we're out together, or that's fine. But I'm talking about something deeper and less rational.
Okay, cool. So that's a good distinction, I think, for the listener. Is what I hear you saying is it's okay to ask for what you need, and hey, honey, I need you to listen to me a little differently. It would be nice if you would just like not interrupt me while I'm talking, or those kind of things we can ask for. But asking someone to be fundamentally a different human being and never react to me, things like that, that's not. We don't want that, right?
No, it's more like I want you to. I want you to be some part of me that's dormant. I want you to complete me in some way. And I'm really pissed when you don't.
Like, what's an example?
Here's an example.
Yeah.
You never validate me. I don't feel validated by you. That's boundary failure. You don't have the capacity to validate somebody else's reality. What are you, God? The reality is their reality. Your reality is your reality. You have your opinion. It's just an opinion.
Yeah.
But my trying to get validation out of you, you son of a gun, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Instead of tending to the wounded part of me that didn't get validation, and giving that affirmation to that child part of me, myself.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then coming to you and perhaps saying, hey, you know what, I got to tell you, when I tell you about a fight I have with a colleague, you take their side. My wife used to do this when we were first married, actually. I'd have a fight with a colleague, and you know, I'm expecting her to say that asshole. And instead she says, oh, I can see why he would say that to you. And I'm like, no, how can you say that?
Uh-huh.
We worked our way out of that. But anyway.
But you were wanting isn't there a part of you though that it's not so much validating your reality, which I hear you saying, we don't want to do that, but it's just validating my feelings. Like, look, I'm upset at a coworker. And your partner could say, yeah, it makes sense that you're upset at your coworker. That's a form of validation.
Again, it's a moderation issue. So if my partner never says, gee, that sucks, I'm sorry, that really feels bad, you know, tell me more about it. Okay, that's fine. But if on Tuesday at 4:30 in the afternoon, on this particular day, my partner doesn't say that, and it like wounds me to the quick, because my parents never mirrored me or tuned to me in that way, and I'm like, oh, I'm right back there. Let alone if I'm right back there, and then I have a temper tantrum. The way I used to have with my parents, or I slam out of the room, or I slink out of the room, or I turn to my characteristic losing strategy.
Yeah.
So it's a moderation issue.
Okay. Great. When Terry, you've been at this quite a long time, and you're, you know, a gifted therapist, and you obviously help people big time, right? And there's been all this new research about adult attachment, and you talked about we regulate each other. How do you talk about self-regulation, which is like, there's a hurt little boy in me that wants to act out with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I need to kind of parent him and get him under control and kind of say, I got you now, and not expect my partner to do that. How do you balance that, the self kind of taking care of myself and my own stuff, inner child, with my partner doing some of that as like almost a parent would, in a kind way that's just a loving figure in my life? Like, how do you talk about that now, where self-regulation, co-regulation?
It goes like this. Your partner's nurture of the less mature parts of you, the inner children, it needs to be voluntary and not obligatory. So your partner wants to love up that little boy in you. It's because that little boy is appealing and she wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's different from, for example, wanting sex every 3 or 4 days at the max, and then pouting and being miserable and making her miserable passive aggressively when you don't have it. Mm-hmm. Again, it's like a moderation issue, where you are with it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm hearing that it's really important that I tend to myself, and I'm not looking for my partner to take care of me out of obligation and expectation. If she wants to love me up because she's inspired to do so, then that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I got it. Cool. Awesome.
You work on it. Drop me a line. Let me know how it's going. All right.
Right on. Awesome. So as we start to transition a little bit, at some point here, I want to get to your courses again. Before we do, men, women, where are we at with just the gender conversation, relationally?
Oh, I think it's very interesting. I think we're really hot in the mix right now. I think that millennial men, I think that where men and women are depends on the age of the person. And to some degree, the region of the person, blue state, red state. But more than that, the age. The baby boomers are in deep trouble. And we talk about the Great Divorce Revolution. A baby boomers' divorce rate has doubled in the last 20 years. And baby boomers are the transitional generation now. We lived through the beginnings of the feminist era, but we weren't raised with it. We were raised in traditional code of traditional masculinity, Mad Men, the 50s. Mm-hmm. And men and women are doing terribly in that age group. Contrast that with millennials on the other end of the spectrum. And I am a huge fan of millennials, particularly millennial men. Millennial men are probably the most gender progressive group this planet's ever seen. Mm-hmm. Gay marriage and gay rights is universally supported. Millennial men expect dual career families. That's financial. Mm-hmm. Millennial men expect democratic decision sharing between the two adults in the family. Millennial men expect an egalitarian marriage. And, as many have pointed out, millennial men, millions of millennial men were raised by feminist mothers. Uh-huh. And it shows.
Yeah.
So, and millennial men are expressive, emotional, and able to be vulnerable. Millennial men have broken away, generation by generation, starting with the boomers. The men have broken away from the traditional mold and opened up to be more vulnerable, more expressive, more relational, more connected. Through generation by generation, I believe that's happening.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting, of course, is that's happening in the context of a culture movement, conservative movement, a resurgence of traditional patriarchy across the world, and certainly in America included. And so there's this tension between the old and the new. And I personally believe in some ways the resurgence of the kind of old style 50s guy, the strong man in world politics, the patriarch, is, I don't know, call me Pollyanna, but I think it's the death rows. I think that this number is up. The patriarchy, that kind of tough hierarchical leadership doesn't work in business anymore. Maybe it does if you're an entrepreneur or a tycoon, but by and large, that's not what people are learning. We live in an interdependent world, and we either start thinking ecologically or we die eventually, our grandchildren or great-grandchildren. So the old world order is done. It just may not know it yet.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, cool. That's helpful. Yeah, there's some, kind of famous entrepreneur types now, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Tim Ferriss, who are promoting self-awareness, and most of their audience are millennial men. So what's cool about that is millennial men are into self-awareness is sexy.
Self-awareness is sexy. Well, and then you have the other side, which is guys don't get too sensitive because, women like to be thrown around a little bit sometimes. And I don't mean that literally.
Yeah.
And women like a lot of women like strong men. It's one of the open secrets about sex therapy, and it's not so secret in some people's work. Sarah Perel, my buddy, who I often work with and present with, talks about women's desire for surrender to a sort of burly man. Uh-huh. And she says, women, we protest in the streets what we like between the sheets.
Wow.
So I want men to be tender and responsive when that's what the moment calls for, and I don't mind them being muscular and you know aggressive in good ways when that's what the moment calls for.
Well, it seems like men have that challenge in themselves these days. Is women want the soft, emotionally available guy, but they also don't want him to lose his balls or his spine, right?
Yeah, right. And there's no reason to see this as an either-or proposition. I talk about, back when I was young, when feminism was just hitting, there were worries, publicly voiced, written about, columns and stuff, about how as we push girls to be more aggressive and to be more smart, they're going to lose their femininity. Mm-hmm. And they're going to become, butch or something in some way. And there was a worry that a girl couldn't be sexy and smart at the same time. Well, we don't worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with men. I want strong, big-hearted men. I want men who have muscle, and I want men who have heart, both at the same time. I want whole human beings on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And leaders that, can embody that. Right? It'd be nice.
Yeah. We miss you, but okay. All right.
Cool.
Enough of my Massachusetts liberalism.
No, that's right. It's great. So tell us a little bit about, let me just zero in on one more comment there about men. If you were to give men advice here, just about relationship, based on what you just said, what's the parting advice for guys?
Without surrendering your spine and your balls, I want you to be supple. I want you to be responsive. I talk about relational jujitsu. Instead of standing up and taking the wave full in the chest, duck under it and pop up the other side. So, for example, I have a saying. What's the quickest way to disarm I have a way of disarming an angry woman that works within minutes, 50% of the time. Now, but 50 is not bad.
No, that's pretty good.
All right. You want to know what it is?
Yeah, let's hear it. Okay,
great. Give her what she wants. You want to hear that again?
Now,
this is jujitsu.
That's not some old school advice from some senior therapist saying, just give her what she wants. Like, unpack that a little bit. Help us make sense. Because I could see someone putting you in that box. Yeah, Terry, you're like a different generation. Of course you're going to say that. Like, what do you mean?
What do I mean? Well, it's good for women as well. But what I talk about is relational jujitsu. Instead of opposing each other, yield to each other. Mm-hmm. And if you, and I'm not talking necessarily about yielding your positions. I'm talking about yielding emotionally.
Yeah.
So instead of that pisses me off, it's, my feelings got hurt. Mm-hmm. And instead of don't do it that way, it becomes, it'd be great if you could do it this way. Mm-hmm. And there are more skilled ways of being with each other that work more as a team and less as opponents.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked, because give her what she wants. I could see someone misinterpreting that to,
yeah, I know.
I'm supposed to abandon myself and just make her happy, and then I'm going to resent her.
No. Okay. Remember, I was just saying that was one tactic with an angry woman.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the be-all and end-all. There are times when you definitely stand up for what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it, though, because you bring a softness about you that's like, you can feel that in you. You can feel your firm kind of like the hard ass is here, but there's also this, really soft, sweet man.
Yeah, thank you.
Wear that well, yeah. Okay, so tell us, as we start to wind down, Terry, tell us a little bit about, I know you train therapists. You also just help the any
general
couple
public
out there, especially couples on the brink.
What I call normal people.
Okay, great.
I help therapists and I help normal people. Yeah, I've got two things that I just did, and I'm very excited about both of them. I'd like to share. One is for the general public, it's for all listeners, and it's an online course that covers essential relationship skills. It's really my relational boot camp transferred online. And, it's a very lively and moving a live workshop that I did in Boulder, Colorado that was filmed, and there are exercises and things to do and so forth. So and it covers the basics: self-esteem, how to have a good relationship with yourself, how to have good boundaries, how to speak up and stand up for yourself with love, how to respond, as I was speaking about, with generosity instead of pride, and what really cherishing the relationship in your partner looks like.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay. Yeah.
it really covers you learn those things and you'll be in pretty good shape.
Let me ask you one question about that that stuck out for me there that I was like, ooh, that's cool. The self-esteem part. Why is self-esteem so important in a relationship? And give the listener one tip that they can deal with their self-esteem.
Healthy self-esteem comes from the inside out, and it can't be added to or subtracted from. It's existential or it's spiritual, whichever you prefer. It's just, you're here because you're breathing. You have essential worth because you're breathing. We know this with babies. You know, say this baby's worth more, you know.
Yeah.
And we know it as it's what democracy is. All men, you know, are created equal. But we don't really think about it that way between adults. When you realize that you are in what I call the circle of health, you're neither better nor worse than the guy to the left and to the right of you. You can't be. There are two forms of unhealthy self-esteem: shame, feeling less than, inferior, unlovable, defective, which many of us struggle with, and grandiosity, feeling better than, superior,
yeah,
looking down your nose at people. And in order to be intimate, you cannot be intimate from the one down shame position or the one up grandiose position. You have to be in the middle. And so bringing yourself up from shame and bringing yourself down from grandiosity is a really essential skill to master. And the other thing about self-esteem is that you literally esteem yourself, that you can hold yourself warmly and tenderly in the face of your own imperfection. It's kind of like mature love that I was describing before for yourself. You know about your imperfection. You don't run from your imperfections, and you love yourself anyway.
Yeah. And what's like one tip that someone can do that is just a baby step they can do to deal with their self-esteem if they have, let's say, low self-esteem?
If you have low self-esteem, then you beat yourself up. You know, it's like there's a part of you, actually technically it's the adaptive child part of you to be precise, but there's a part of you that's beating you up.
Mm-hmm.
You're no good, you blah, 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 blah. And there's a two-step process of blocking that voice. Not harshly. You don't meet harshness with harshness. But you block that voice, you know, simmer down, and then you close your eyes, look down at the floor, and literally summon up the energy of tenderness and compassion and give it to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I have more to say about that, but that's enough for now.
That would be a good thing they could dive into in your course if they want to go deep.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And then the second course you talked about is just for therapists.
Yes.
And you run therapists, you train therapists all over the world.
Yes.
Why, I want to just set context here before you tell us about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why, and I have a feeling I know the answer is something along the lines of a lot of therapy might come up short in terms of relationship help. So will you set it up a little bit? Like, so why is that? And like, what that's different?
Yeah. Well, I run around the country telling therapists that there's some serious design flaws in therapy in general, and couples therapy and therapy with men in particular. And some of the things that we do in the therapy that I've created, and I've trained therapists, you're right, I've trained thousands of therapists around the country and beyond. Some of the things that we do different is one I mentioned, which is that we deal with both issues of shame and also grandiosity. We help people not just come up from shame, which has been the big focus in psychology and self-help for a decade. We also help people come down from the one-up of superiority, looking down your nose at people, being irresponsible in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have issues of both. If there's anybody listening who's thinking, I have no issues of grandiosity whatsoever, they are grandiose.
Yeah.
That's a grandiose thought.
Yeah.
So you need to help people come down. The other thing is that if you can't help somebody come down from the one-up position, you're going to have a hard time working with men. Because a lot of men lead from the one-up grandiose position, have covert issues of shame, whereas a lot of women lead from the one-down shame position and have covert issues of grandiosity.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with both for both sexes. Another difference, big difference, is that we take sides. Not all problems are 50-50. Everybody who comes sees me in my clinical practice has been through 4 or 5 therapists. There's one partner who's been dragging another. We talk about the latent and the blatant. Sometimes it's 50-50, but sometimes it's 80-20. Sometimes it's 90-10. And partner A is dragging partner B into the therapist because partner B's behavior is outrageous.
Yeah.
A womanizer, a drinker, a rager, or whatever. And therapists will throw the sort of more enabling codependent partner under the bus, whether it's man or woman. The one on the feminine side of the equation will be thrown under the bus, in the guise of winning the other person's trust. We're taught to treat grandiosity with kid gloves, and we don't. We take sides, we confront the grandiosity, we tell truth to power, we say, you're a nut, Mrs. Jones, and you're an even bigger nut, Mr. Jones, and here's why. So we call it like we see it.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that's different about this therapy is that we do deep character work in the couple sessions. So we'll do trauma work, we'll do inner child work with your partner next to you. And I can't tell you how useful that is to open the hearts of the partner.
Totally. Yeah, because then they see their partner vulnerable, right? Instead of defensive and like throwing daggers or whatever.
And you see the backstory. You see why somebody is the way they are.
Yeah, it helps you understand. Oh, got it. Now, you know, it kind of fills out the picture more, right, of why their behavior is their behavior.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Great.
And then the last big difference is that we teach. Along with being lovingly confrontational about what you're doing wrong and doing the trauma work, family of origin, inner child work, the third phase of the work is this is how, it's what I covered in the online course for the general public. This is how you open up your mouth and speak. This is how you listen.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you negotiate. This is how you resolve conflict. The basics of how to get it done. Because in our culture, we don't have the skills. You didn't see it in your dysfunctional family growing up, and you don't see it in the dysfunctional culture that created the dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to handle. We have very strong ambitions for relationship. We want really intimate, loving, passionate, hot relationships for our whole lifetime. But we don't have a set of sophisticated skills that match that ambition.
Yeah.
And so the final phase of our work is teaching you how to get it done.
Yeah.
So all of those distinguish this therapy of relational life therapy from most other therapy.
That's great. And if a person is listening and wants to find a relational life therapist, where do they go?
Well, I want everybody, therapists, non-therapists, coaches. I also do a lot of training. Coaches are very welcome in relational life work. I want everybody to come to my website, terryreal.com, TerryReal.com, and take a look at what we got cooking. We got all kinds of things there for you. And take a look at these online courses.
Great. And what was the second course that's for therapists? What's that one called, and where do they find that?
That's called the Level 1, the Relational Life Therapy Level 1 training.
Okay. And I'll put links to all this in the show notes, listeners.
Yeah. And you have some links to videos where I talk more about this?
Yeah.
Can you share those with your listeners now?
Yep. I can put them right in the show notes.
Okay, great. Let's do that.
Okay. Yeah, I would recommend clicking on these links, guys, just because Terry is doing awesome work in the world, and you can get a little taste and a deeper dive, and then you could certainly sign up for one of his courses if you want.
Great.
Cool. Anything else, Terry, parting words before we stop here?
Only parting words are, as always, it's really fun and delightful and relaxed and stimulating to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, likewise, man. I'm like, let's keep going. I could go for hours with you. So I appreciate just the way you are and all that you're bringing to us.
Thank you. You be well. And all of you listening and watching, come to my website, terryreal.com, and see what we got cooking.
Cool. Thanks, Terry.
Okay. Take care, man.
All right.
Bye.